Hello, and welcome to the Brutal Iron Gym podcast, where our goal is to cut through the BS and deliver the brutal truth about topics related to health and happiness. Today's podcast number 2060. The topic is Q&A, and the title is Lower Body Training for Youth and Beginners. A former client of mine sent out an email to me recently and brought up today's topic. So the email said the following: My son came to me recently and asked me to help him start his workout journey. Talk about a proud dad. Yay, that's awesome. I'm happy for you. We worked out a few times at home and are going to venture to the gym here soon. I've been writing him some basic plans to ease him into it, but wanted to see what you would recommend for a basic leg starter workout. Since he's new to weight training, he does have a beginner level of strength, so I'm not sure which way to go. I was thinking goblet squats to start. He's over 6 foot tall and very lean. Any other suggestions for starting him out? We're working on diet as well. He's a picky eater, but we're trying to eat over 2,000 calories a day. Awesome. Just trying to make sure I keep him healthy and interested in this as he really wants to do it. Thank you, Rob. Awesome. Well, thank you for sending the message. This is super fun, super exciting. I started lifting weights when I was 16, so anytime I get to work with teenagers or kind of younger people, it does fire me up and get me excited in the sense of being able to help them with a better start than I had. I had a great start. My parents were amazing. They helped me get, they basically bought me weightlifting equipment for our gym, for our basement. We had a 2-car garage, so they let me take over one side of it. We put in some awesome equipment, got brand new equipment, but also got some stuff from my neighbors. So thank you to the old school neighbors who gave me some pieces. But really awesome to get that start. I would read magazines every month because the internet didn't exist for the way it is now. It didn't exist. Then as I got older, there were starting to be internet resources, so I would start to watch videos and whatnot. But it took me a while to really figure out what in the world I should be doing. And I love being able to help youth now because I can help them get a faster and better start than what I had, and that always is, it feels exciting, feels very rewarding. So thank you for the opportunity. I appreciate that you care what I think and what I have to say. So he mentioned nutrition. Absolutely, definitely first place to start. If you're a beginner or youth, if you lift weights, you're likely going to be very sore, so ensuring that you have enough calories and protein to fuel the recovery process is extremely important. We also want to be hydrated as well. If we don't eat enough calories, we're not going to have good energy in the workouts, so that's not going to help. And then also, if we don't eat enough calories and enough protein, and we don't drink enough fluids, we're going to feel super stiff, super sore for much longer than we need to, and that can be very demotivating. So if you want somebody who's new to keep up with weight training, you want to make sure that they recover well because they're going to feel better between the workouts and they're more likely to actually work out again. So that's very helpful. What I would suggest for that is you can go to our website, www.brutalirongym.com, go to the nutrition education page. The very first link is titled Create Your Own Nutrition Program. You can click on that, you can download the document, you can view it, read it, but it'll help you set up your own nutrition program so that way you're eating enough calories, eating enough protein. It talks about meal timing distribution, so that's really good as well. You can also we also want to focus on hydration. We want to be consuming at least half our body weight in ounces of fluid a day. The typical range is half to 1 ounce per pound of body weight. So just be somewhere in there so that way you're hydrated and the muscles are feeling, nice and mobile and not super stiff. It also helps with digestion. It helps with daily energy and mood. When you're dehydrated, your mood actually goes to crap, whether people realize it or not. There's a lot of benefits to having enough calories, protein, and hydration. So we have that information on the website for free, or you can also sign up for nutrition client services, and I'll help you just get that set up, and then you can kind of take it with it on your own. Now, when we think about a lower body workout for teenagers and beginners, the first thing that I kind of consider is how well they move. This is a broad sweeping statement, but it does have some trueness to it. Is that most youth, their posture is trash. they sit a lot, so their shoulders are rounded and pulled forward by tight chest muscles. Then they typically bend from like their rib cage rather than their hips. So a lot of times youth, when you go to train them and say like a deadlift, they'll bend in like their rib cage, like the bottom of their, like, it's kind of like the top of their thumb, like lumbar spine. They'll bend from there before they actually like unlock their glutes and hamstrings to actually bend at the hips. So they usually have really tight glutes and hamstrings, and they don't hip hinge very well. So if we're familiar with like an RDL, like a Romanian deadlift, that movement is completely foreign to most youth. So that is something I pay attention to, is shoulder positioning and hip like mobility, and even like awareness to be able to like move and hinge at their hips well. So typically what I start with is movement prep warm-ups, and I've explained it in deeper details in podcast 1112. Whatever podcast player you're on probably doesn't go back that far, so you can go to our website, www.brutalirongym.com, scroll down on the homepage, and you'll see our podcast player that we have on the homepage. It goes back 300 episodes, but underneath the player are instructions on how to find older podcasts. So you can follow those instructions, type in 1112, and that podcast will come up and you can listen to it for more details. But we want to warm up by working on mobility, like movement health of the shoulders and the hips, as well as strengthening the core. Those three areas are going to be extremely important for the movement quality of any exercise. So that's the first thing I look at, are some kind of small movement that improves shoulder mobility, something that improves hips, and then something that strengthens their core. And I usually do anti-movement for core. Anti-rotation, anti-flexion, anti-extension. So think of planks or Pallof variations. That's P-A-L-L-O-F if you want to look into that. But that's typically the stuff we look at, is we start the workout by just preparing them for movement. And this is extremely important because it corrects a lot of postural issues. And if they take any postural issues into a major movement such as goblet squats, that is not going to go well. They're going to be using muscles they shouldn't, not using muscles they should. They're going to probably experience joint pain because things aren't balanced and equal across the joints. So there could be a lot of discomfort and a lot of just not being able to do a movement very well because they can't move well. So we want to improve their movement quality first. So that's the first things I look at in the workout. Now, the benefits, again, is overall mobility. You want to strengthen the small supporting muscles so that way it protects them against injury. And then it helps to develop mind-muscle connection and general coordination, which is very important and very helpful for anything you're going to do in the gym. So podcast 1112 will talk to you about how to start the workout. Now, that typically takes anywhere from 6 to 12 minutes. It usually doesn't take it. If you set it up correctly the way I explained, it shouldn't really take more than, like, say, 15 minutes if you do the rest periods well and you do everything correct. So that kind of gets everything moving. It also gets their adrenaline up and endorphins. Endorphins are natural painkillers. Adrenaline is focus. So it just kind of helps the rest of the workout go well. It's going to improve their performance, not only physically in strength and mobility, but also chemically in regards to having everything appropriate with their mindset and focus. Then we want to go into the main movements, which would be, for lower body, you're looking at basically a squat movement and or a hinge movement. So you want to be doing something that's essentially like a knee bend or a hip bend. A squat is most commonly, in most situations and blah, 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 is the torso stays relatively upright and you get a large degree of bend at the knee. Whereas a hinge, the torso is changing. It's going from vertical to almost horizontal, repetition after repetition after repetition, and the knee angle doesn't change very much. So when you think about major lower body movements, you're either bending a lot at the hips and a little at the knee, or a lot at the knee and a little at the hips, if that makes sense. So you can do both those in one workout, or you can alternate workout focus. The main movement is typically going to be your big heavy thing for the day. Now, the big heavy thing with beginners and youth, I actually like to have it be a supported or guided movement, meaning it's not going to be a free weight movement. This might be counter to what you would think, but the reason why is their ability to balance and coordinate is going to limit how heavy you can load the major muscles. So glutes, hamstrings, quadriceps. Let's just say they're the main ones. Pretty much. So how heavy they can squat is going to be based on how well they can balance a bar on their back, bending at the hips and the knees versus keeping their core tight. Do they even have shoulder external mobility to be able to get in those positions? Do they have enough ankle flexion mobility? Like, there's so many things going on that you might end up squatting just the bar, and that will not stimulate strength in those large muscles, the quads, glutes, and hamstrings, or to a very pathetic degree. So they're not going to experience a very large increase in strength for quite a while until the coordinational components and the balancing and stabilizational components are developed. But that stinks, because now you're waiting to develop the bigger muscles for all these small muscles when you could be working the small muscles and the bigger muscles at the same time. So I like doing guided movements, and that would be like a leg press, hack squat, Smith machine, RDLs, basically machines. And the benefit of that is it removes the stabilization and balance component. And think about like a leg press, there's not really a lot of coordination. Just come down, go up. Hack squat, go down, go up. A Smith machine RDL, definitely more, but it's still like the bar can only go up and down, so they're just trying to figure out how they should move around that. But if you stay with machines, it really helps you overload and strengthen the large muscles, and then the stabilizing muscles are still actually going to get some development because they have to flex and brace and still like be involved in the movement, so they're still going to get a stimulus to some degree. So rather than, if we think of like the spectrum of what we can do, is one rep max, heaviest freaking thing you could possibly do, and then on the other end of the spectrum is a free weight thing they balance and like trying to do like a single leg stiff leg deadlift on a Bosu ball. So if we think of this spectrum, we don't want to stay with only lightweight free weight movements like a goblet squat, dumbbell or barbell RDLs. Like we don't want to stay with only that stuff, because you're only stimulating the supporting, stabilizing, balancing components and not the maximal strength of the main muscles, the quads, glutes, and hamstrings. So we do want to do those things, but we want to add to, on the other side of the spectrum, we want to add these big, heavy, guided movements. And typically I would recommend to do those first after the warm-up, because even though they're guided, they have more overall demand on the body. So trying to do a heavy set of 10 reps on a leg press is much more demanding than trying to goblet squat a 30-pound dumbbell, right? And then also, since they're new to it, they have to learn pacing and control. So there's still actually like a higher degree of risk to those movements than you would have with somebody who's an intermediate or advanced. So there's still a little bit of risk. It's highly demanding. So why not do that more towards when you're fresh in the workout? So that would be our main movements, is a squat variation and or a hinge variation on a supported or guided type of movement, so that to allow for a safe overload. And then you're going to be looking for roughly 3 to 5 sets of 3 to 5 reps. That is a lower rep range. They're still going to get some growth out of it, because even though it's short volume in terms of time under tension, it's still brand spanking new for them. So it's going to produce some muscle growth stimulus, but it's really going to help develop strength. As they can feel stronger, they're going to feel better coordinated with all other movements. They're going to be excited to see the weight move more. Typically, when somebody's youth or beginner, they're nervous that they're weak. They're nervous to be in the gym because they feel weak. So if you can show them, hey man, second week already, and bam, we're already up a plate on leg press. 3 weeks in, 4 weeks in, and wow, you almost doubled your reps from the first time we did this. Like, they get that, and there's a huge boost. And you can actually see that week by week by week, if not month by month by month, with beginners and youth. So why not tap into that as a motivating component, right? Then, after that, we would go into our accessory movements. And these are things that are unilateral movements. They have balancing aspects to them. And I would typically choose something like fun-ish, ish, meaning if they hate the movements, they're not going to continue that. But we're typically looking for lunges, split squats, step ups. If you have access to like flipping a tire, pushing and pulling a sled, doing some weird fun movements is super helpful as well. The reason why we want to do lunges, split squats, step ups, these unilateral components, is it really helps with that hip mobility and hip strengthening, as well as into those small tiny muscles around the groin and the hips, and that's going to help them be much stronger in the long run, much safer as well. Even if you have to do hand assisted at first, body weight only, just get them doing it. And if they hate that, pair it with something that they enjoy and think is fun. So find something fun and then find something that is challenging, even if they hate it, and pair those two together and get them to do that. So I typically do my accessories in circuits. So I'll do 2 or 3 or 4 exercises in a circuit. So they'll do first set of exercise 1, then exercise 2, then exercise 3, so on. Take a break, then do the second set of exercise 1, exercise 2, exercise 3, and so on. So you want to do that in a circuit. Typically, the rest time is going to be anywhere from half to 2 times the amount of time it took to do the movements. So if you did exercise 1, 2, and 3, and in total that took you 3 minutes, then you're going to go half to twice that time as rest. So 1.5 minutes up to 6 minutes as rest. If you don't even need 1.5 minutes, if you don't even need half the time to recover, it's not heavy enough. It's not challenging enough. If you need more than twice the time to recover, it's too damn heavy, too challenging. So break that apart, lessen the weights, do what you got to do. But that is a very broad range. However, it's enough of a range that people will still find it challenging sometimes to get within it. But that would be our overall structure. Is you're going to start with movement preparation, warm-ups, and again, you can learn about that in podcast 1112. Then you're going to go into a major movement, 1 or 2, depending on the ability of the person, their interest, their capacity, the time you have. And then you're going to go into accessories. I typically will pick 2 or 3. And again, that's going to be unilateral movements, balancing components. That's where you mix in the free weight stuff. So that would be where goblet squats are, or walking lunges, step ups, all those kind of things. So that is the overall structure. Now, how many sets and reps, I guess, of that is, again, 3 to 5 sets of the accessories. And you want rep range that's going to give you somewhere between 20 to 60 seconds of time and retention. So 20 to 60 seconds of challenge per working set. So again, about 2 or 3 movements, 3 to 5 sets, 20 to 60 seconds of time under tension challenge per working set. So that's going to be our overall structure. And then there's an infinite number of workouts you can create out of that structure. Literally infinite. So you can have fun with that, play with that, personalize it. If you want to learn more about personalization of lower body training, you can listen to podcast 1554. That's a really good one. It's titled How to Personalize Your Leg Training. So you learn some more components there as well. So hopefully that was helpful. If we're looking at lower body training for youth and beginners, like we said, nutrition, make sure you have enough calories, protein, and hydration. And then when you get into the workouts, start with movement prep. Stuff that works on mobility, strengthening the small supporting muscles, developing mind-muscle connection and coordination. We want to focus on shoulders, core, and hips. And shoulders, yes, even in a lower body workout. Because you think about movements like a barbell squat, your shoulders are involved. So you always want to work on shoulders, core, and hips, even in lower body workouts. Then main movement, again, some kind of heavy squat or hinge that's supported and guided. And then all your fun, crazy accessories that are unilateral movements, balancing components, stuff that's challenging but also fun, put together as a circuit. Awesome. Well, if you have any questions, if you need anything, you can always reach out on the website. I do write programming for youth sports. I have written an infinite number of programs for youth. So if you want somebody to help you get some ideas started, you're welcome to reach out and let me know, and we can work together, create the nutrition program. We can also, work on creating templates for workouts that you can rotate through and then start to learn how to personalize on your own. So a lot of my business clients are personal trainers, and I teach them how to write templates for clients and then how to personalize those templates so that way they always have a structure they know works, but they can personalize it to each individual that they apply it to. So it's something we do all the time, very normal. So if you're interested in that, you can go to the website, you can check out our one-on-one services. You can always shoot me a message if you have any questions. But I hope you always feel encouraged and supported to reach out if you need anything. So thank you to the former client and friend and listener who reached out for today's topic. I hope this was helpful. If you have any follow-up questions, just let me know. Awesome. Well, if you like the podcast, please share the podcast. The more people we share it with, the more people we can help. If you like the podcast, please consider donating to support the podcast, which you can do on our website. And if you like the information we share in the podcast, you can find more from us on our social media channels by finding us and following us on Instagram and YouTube under the name Brutal Iron Gym. As always, I hope this was helpful, and thank you for listening.